Hey guys, Eric here. I want to go over this new W-4. My goodness, what is going on? So the W-4, the one that the employees fill out to get paid, is been revised. It's honestly the biggest revision we've seen in 2 decades, maybe three. This W-4 form looks completely different. So you're probably going to get a lot of questions. Just thought I'd give you a quick overview and say, hey, this is a couple of things I'm thinking. First off, I've got this helpful link. This is from the IRS. It kind of gives some background, and to read through it, I actually think makes sense. I think I would read through this and kind of understand what's going on. It's a short read. It talks about the major changes to it. And, I'm not going to read it to you, but it talks about each of these things and what we can do when we maybe help our employees fill out this form. Not that we want to complete it for them. They should talk to their accountants, or they should, read the form themselves. But, for those who really struggle, who want to hold their hands a little bit, we can help and say, hey, what do you have going on? What are you thinking about? And so that's something that you can do as an employer is, talk to your employees and maybe walk them through filling out a couple spots. Obviously, so this is the W-4 form. We've got, simple stuff at the top here, name, address, pretty easy. And they simplified this top section. So just single or married filing separately, married filing jointly, or head of household. And so head of household would be typically if you have a kid and you're the single provider for that family, and there's no other, adult there or spouse that's contributing. And so then down below, they've got this is totally different, claim number of dependents. And so I have 2 kiddos. And so, I would, put my 2 kiddos in here. My income is 200,000 or less. Absolutely is less than that. And so multiply, the number of kids under 17. So I'm going to put in $4,000. Here, multiply a number of other dependents. So I don't have any kids that are 18 years older or more. I don't have any, elderly parents or family staying with me. So that's just a 0. So I'll put in a 4,000 there. And then, other income, you can put down in if somebody had a 1099 job, if they said, hey, I make $10,000 as a gig economy contractor, they could put in this money here and essentially, kind of calculate some withholding on their W-2 paycheck that would compensate for their other income. And so I think this is a really good box. This is a new ad. And for a lot of our, type of industry folks, they oftentimes do have separate jobs, or they have a separate 1099 income. And here they could account for some of that tax. So that's super cool. And then deductions other than the standard deduction. We know that the mortgage interest let's just say the standard deduction has been raised. And so very few people are going to qualify to be itemizers now. As a matter of fact, I read a stat that 80 to 85% of people are going to be using that standard deduction. So unless someone has very high mortgage interest, unless someone is, paying very high real estate taxes, and even then, it really has to be with high mortgage interest and or high charity to be an itemizer. But for some people, that they may have that, and so they would input their deductions here if they knew. I think that gets a little bit advanced for tax planning, and they probably want to work with an accountant at that point. But if I had to give the Cliff Notes version, I would say have them check out their last tax return. They can see if they itemized on the last tax return, and some of our employees would be capable of checking that out and entering that here. And then the extra withholding is always a good idea if folks figured out that they did the math and it came out a little bit wrong, or they just not enough was withheld. They would use this line here to say, hey, each pay period, why don't you withhold an extra $500, whatever that looks like. And so all this information then is communicated to your payroll provider. If that's us, obviously, we'll take that information and input it correctly. But down here, always want to make sure that they get the signature and date. You could put your employer's name and address down there. Technically, we don't see all our employers do that. That's just kind of some extra work for you. If the IRS ever did want these records, we would just go ahead and fill out your information at that time. So far, it's not something that's really often requested. There are general instructions, lots of text here, another, 3 pages that, this part here, probably not as much of an easier read as these regulations here. This part here in this PDF is a little bit more easier on the eyes. It's more explanatory. They do have a special section in here for multiple jobs. And I know, especially with the folks that we're working with, we probably do have people who are working multiple jobs, different places. And so this gets, really more nuanced. And I think it's outside the scope of our video here. But, rest assured that, there are individuals that need to learn and figure out this section here. Hope you got value out of today's video. This 20 W4 stuff isn't sending you and your team too much for a loop. Of course, if you have questions and you're one of our clients, or even if you're not and you just want to run something by us, feel free to reach out and we'll be glad to help. All right, hope you're doing well. Take care.